You may not feel it in the noise of the world. But something is shifting, quietly, profoundly. Not in chaos, not in headlines, but in you. The energy moving beneath these days isn't loud, but it is undeniable. The most powerful turning points in your life rarely begin with explosions. They begin with whispers. With a pull in your chest you can't quite explain. With a strange ache behind your thoughts. With a silence that feels more sacred than still. This is that kind of week. And this is that kind of moment. You are not just stepping into a new set of dates on the calendar, you're entering a new soul cycle. Something in you has already begun moving, a subtle unraveling of the old self, a dissolving of patterns you've long outgrown, a shift that defies logic but resonates deeply in the body. You may not have words for it, but you feel it. The restlessness. The anticipation. The strange clarity rising between emotional tides. The truth is, the days ahead carry a kind of energy that doesn't ask for perfection, it asks for presence. You don't need to rush or strive. You need to become still enough to hear what your soul is saying. Because this is not just a week of change. It's a passage. A spiritual threshold between who you've been and who you're now being asked to become. And like all sacred thresholds, something must be left behind. The old self cannot cross with you. The attachments, the excuses, the outdated beliefs, they cannot survive what's being activated now. Not because they're wrong, but because they're too small for where you're going. You are stepping into something that requires your full self. Not the edited version. Not the one that's been performing. But the one that's been waiting quietly inside you all along. So if you feel it, if your spirit recognizes that this moment means more than it appears, comment 777 to mark your resonance with the path unfolding. This is not about ritual. It's about remembrance. You're not just moving forward. You're returning to who you were before the forgetting. And the gates of transformation are already open. There are certain days when the shift doesn't come with chaos or noise, it comes quietly, through memory. April 9th carries this kind of energy. It is not about bold movement or clear decisions. It is about recognition. Something deep inside begins to stir, not because it is new, but because it is familiar. Like hearing a sound you haven't heard in years and suddenly remembering where you first encountered it. Or like remembering a name you once carried, not in this world, but before it. This is not a time for striving or searching. It is not a time for forcing clarity. It is a day of recollection, of soul remembrance. The kind of knowing that doesn't come from facts or logic, but from vibration. You may not be able to explain it with words, but your heart feels it. A deeper version of yourself, long buried under expectations and adaptation, is returning. And that return doesn't need permission. It just needs space. There is a stillness available now, not an empty one, but a sacred one. It asks you to stop running, to stop editing, to stop performing. Not because you've failed, but because none of that is necessary anymore. The energy of this moment calls you to remember the path you walked before fear entered the picture. The one you've always known, but lost touch with somewhere along the way. This is what the Lord says: stand at the crossroads and look, ask for the ancient paths, ask where the good way is, and walk in it, and you will find rest for your souls. Jeremiah 6 verse 16. That ancient path is not hidden outside of you. It is already etched into your soul. This is your invitation to return to it, not by effort, but by honesty. By choosing to no longer betray your inner knowing for comfort, approval, or survival. A new internal contract is forming now, and it is not made with the world, it is made with yourself. It is a quiet vow, that you will no longer abandon your energy to keep others comfortable. That you will no longer doubt the guidance rising from within. That you will no longer trade your truth for a temporary sense of belonging. The path forward does not begin with a plan, it begins with presence. With allowing yourself to fully return to the one you were before the noise, before the masks, before the compromise. You're not here to invent a new identity. You're here to recover the one that never stopped breathing under the surface. The one that is ready now, not to be proven, but to be lived. And from this place of quiet remembrance, every step you take will carry more weight, more clarity, and more truth than ever before. As April 10th unfolds, the atmosphere shifts from dreamlike intuition to grounded clarity. The cosmic landscape draws your attention inward, not into emotion, but into structure. Mercury, planet of thought, language, perception, and interpretation, aligns with Saturn, ruler of law, responsibility, time, and integrity. And when these two archetypes meet, your internal landscape reorganizes. You begin to realize that thinking is not just private activity, it's energetic architecture. The words you speak and the thoughts you entertain are not neutral. They build. They shape. They become. This moment doesn't feel like inspiration, it feels like confirmation. There is a sense that what once felt open-ended is now drawing lines. What used to be flexible becomes defined. Your own mind begins to hold you to a higher standard. You may catch yourself before speaking, filtering not for politeness but for truth. You may find yourself editing not for appearance but for alignment. You may be re-evaluating what you've committed to and realizing that it's time to either go deeper, or let go. You are no longer being asked to think your way out of things, you're being asked to think your way into truth. And with Saturn's influence, the truth doesn't always feel light. It feels weighty. Real. Unavoidable. Not because it's punishment, but because it's sacred. This is the kind of mental clarity that doesn't just help you understand your life, it helps you build it, refine it, and take full responsibility for the reality you're part of shaping. That's why conversations today may carry more emotional depth. Why silence may feel more potent than explanation. Why small decisions, what to say, what to agree to, what to release, may suddenly feel like spiritual contracts. They are. As it is written, let your yes be yes, and your no be no, Matthew 5 verse 37. There is no longer room for halfway choices. The soul is calling for alignment in every word you speak, every agreement you enter, every thought you continue to feed. You may feel the need to revise a plan, cancel a meeting, shift a boundary, or clarify your values. Not because you're indecisive, but because you're becoming precise. There is power in choosing with your full presence. This alignment between Mercury and Saturn also invites a different kind of maturity. Not just intellectual maturity, but emotional sobriety. You may begin to see the areas in your life where you've said yes when you meant maybe, or stayed silent when your truth was rising in your chest. You may notice how often you've scattered your energy through indecision, and how much peace you reclaim when you finally say, this is what I mean, this is what I choose, this is where I stand. Mercury brings speed, but Saturn slows it down just enough for you to hear your own echo. Together, they help you listen for resonance, not just reaction. They teach you that true clarity does not shout. It arrives with gravity. And it demands action that reflects your inner knowing. So if this day feels heavier than usual, if decisions press on you more firmly, if silence feels louder than noise, lean in. This is not pressure. It's precision. You're not being punished for uncertainty. You're being positioned for truth. And under this sky, the mind is not a place to hide, it is a place to build. What you say now, echoes. What you choose now, defines. And what you align now, will hold steady when everything else is shifting. After the pressure of decisions, the weight of truth, and the sharpening clarity that Mercury and Saturn delivered, April 11th offers something different. It doesn't bring action. It doesn't push you forward. It simply asks you to stop, and feel what's quietly settling beneath the surface. The momentum of transformation doesn't always require forward motion. Sometimes, the most sacred work is done in stillness. This is one of those days. You may notice your energy dip, not in defeat, but in surrender. You might feel emotionally raw, strangely tired, or disconnected from the outer world. That's not a problem to fix. It's not resistance. It's integration. What has been stirred within you over the past several days is now seeking to land inside your nervous system, your breath, your bones. And for that to happen, you need to slow down enough to receive what's arriving. We're so used to defining transformation by breakthroughs, by big leaps, loud clarity, powerful action. But this day reminds you that illumination isn't always explosive. Sometimes it unfolds in the background. In the body. In the quiet awareness that something has shifted inside, even if you can't name it yet. That kind of shift doesn't need your effort, it needs your openness. In returning and rest you shall be saved, in quietness and trust shall be your strength. Isaiah 30 verse 15. That is the posture of this moment. Not the striving to understand, but the surrender to allow. If you've been searching for an answer, today might not give you one. But it might give you something deeper, a sense of readiness to hold the answer when it does arrive. This is a day of spiritual detox. A recalibration of frequency. You may find yourself sleeping more, speaking less, craving solitude. Let it happen. Cancel the unnecessary. Release the obligation to explain yourself. Let your mind be quiet. Let your heart be heard. Even the stillness has a pulse, and today you are being tuned into it. In the still, unseen places within you, the soul is rearranging its furniture. Making space. Breaking old contracts. Loosening what no longer fits. It is work no one sees, but it is the foundation for what you will carry forward. What will be born through you cannot come through a crowded, noisy channel. It requires stillness, trust, and the willingness to empty. So this is not a pause to be filled. It is a pause to be honored. The energy of April 11th asks nothing from you but presence. To be in your breath. In your body. In your heart. Not fixing. Not figuring. Just feeling. Let yourself be still without labeling it as unproductive. Let yourself feel without demanding resolution. You are being prepared. You are being cleared. You are being deepened. Even if you can't see it on the surface, your spirit knows exactly what this stillness is for. Because tomorrow, the heart will lead again. And the day after that, the full moon will rise. But before the next chapter begins, your soul needs you to pause, long enough to remember that stillness is not the absence of progress. It is where true progress begins. April 12th marks a turning of the tide, not in your calendar, but in your heart. After weeks of emotional tension, inner questioning, and subtle unraveling, Venus, the planet of love, beauty, values, and emotional magnetism, finally stations direct. And with it, the fog begins to clear around the matters that live closest to your soul. This energy doesn't scream. It softens. It doesn't rush you into love, worth, or intimacy, it guides you gently back to them. If you felt emotionally tangled in recent weeks, unable to fully express your needs or access your own tenderness, this shift may feel like a return to yourself. But it is not a return to the past. It is a return to your center. Venus going direct releases blocked energy that has been building around your self-worth, your capacity to give and receive, and the way you hold space for others, romantically, creatively, financially, spiritually. You may suddenly see clearly what you've been tolerating. You may feel the urge to stop pouring into empty wells. You may finally understand that love, when it's real, doesn't drain, it nourishes. And yet, what's revealed today isn't just what's misaligned with your heart. It's also what your heart truly values. You may be reminded of passions that once lit you up, connections that felt pure but were left behind, or callings you've delayed for the sake of comfort. This is not about guilt. It's about truth. Your own truth, returning to you after a long detour through external validation. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Proverbs 4 verse 23. That is the spiritual law Venus direct now activates. Not guarding out of fear, but guarding out of honor. Your heart is not something to be endlessly extracted from. It is the source of your joy, your creativity, your frequency. And anything that asks you to betray it, even subtly, is not love. It's bondage. As this energy opens, you may feel the emotional debris of the past begin to lift. Unspoken resentments. Old disappointments. Grief you didn't know you were still carrying. Let it move through you. Don't cling to what is dissolving. You are not being asked to fix the past. You are being asked to release it. To make space. To come back into energetic alignment with who you've become. This is also a beautiful day to forgive, not because others deserve it, but because your heart does. Forgiveness isn't agreement. It's freedom. And Venus doesn't just want you to find love again. She wants you to be free to feel it, hold it, and share it without losing yourself in the process. So let your heart lead again, but this time, from fullness. Let it teach you the difference between sacrifice and sacred exchange. Between obligation and devotion. Between performance and presence. This isn't about closing your heart. It's about elevating its frequency. And what flows from it now will shape how you love, how you give, and how you live, for a long time to come. April 13th brings the week to its peak, not with a celebration, but with a confrontation. The full moon in Libra arrives like a mirror held to your emotional landscape, reflecting back every place where balance has been disturbed, withheld, or quietly surrendered. Libra, the sign of beauty, harmony, and sacred equality, does not bring chaos for the sake of drama. It brings clarity for the sake of justice. And under this moon, clarity can no longer be postponed. This is not a gentle moon. It is luminous, but not soft. It shines on the shadows you thought you'd escaped, the unspoken tensions in your relationships, the ways you've overgiven, the truths you've swallowed to keep the peace. It reveals silent agreements that have become soul contracts, unexpressed emotions that have hardened into exhaustion, and compromises that have slowly disconnected you from yourself. But this isn't punishment. It's divine rebalancing. But let justice roll on like a river, righteousness like a never-failing stream. Amos 5 verse 24. These words were not written for courtrooms. They were written for hearts. For lives. For soul ecosystems that have gone too long without honoring what is fair, what is aligned, what is true. And this moon does not negotiate with imbalance. It reveals it. It amplifies it. And then it asks, what will you do with what you now see? You may find your relationships coming to a crossroads, romantic, familial, creative, or even spiritual. Conversations may arise that have been building for months. Feelings may surface that you thought you'd already processed. People may reveal their true selves, not through grand declarations, but through subtle misalignments that suddenly become impossible to ignore. And perhaps most importantly, you may hear your own truth louder than ever before. This full moon doesn't just rebalance what's outside, it forces you to confront what's within. The internal scale that's been tilted for too long. The emotional labor you've given without return. The inner harmony you've sacrificed for outer acceptance. That time is over. The soul is no longer willing to live out of alignment for the sake of keeping things calm. Calm is not the same as peace. And Libra wants real peace, the kind that requires honesty, recalibration, and sometimes, bold release. If your dreams the night before felt vivid, symbolic, even prophetic, pay close attention. The subconscious is wide open under this moon. Many are being given glimpses of what must shift, who they are becoming, and where they are no longer meant to stay. The symbols may not make immediate sense, but they are part of your personal instruction. Track them. Let them reveal themselves over time. Emotionally, this may be a raw day. Not because you are breaking down, but because you are breaking open. And what flows out of you is not weakness, it's wisdom. Let it rise. Let it be heard. And above all, let it guide you toward the kind of alignment that doesn't just look balanced, but feels true. This moon is not here to shame you for the past. It is here to give you a clean page. A just scale. A restored center. So honor what it reveals. Act from what it teaches. And let the reckoning become the rebirth. As this sacred week unfolds, the evidence of transformation doesn't only appear in your external life, it begins echoing through subtle, almost invisible channels. The signs are everywhere, if your inner eye is open enough to notice them. Time itself may feel distorted. For some, it speeds up, days blur, conversations loop, and events seem to pile on top of one another. For others, time slows down, stretching wide in moments of emotional intensity or eerie stillness. Either way, the clock is no longer a reliable measure. That's because this week's energy isn't moving by linear time, it's moving by divine timing. The soul is processing at a higher frequency, and your lived experience may start to reflect that shift. Dreams, especially between April 12th and 13th, become saturated with symbolism, memory, and prophecy. You may find yourself receiving instruction in sleep, sometimes in the form of vivid imagery, other times through emotional release. People from your past may appear, not for nostalgia, but for resolution. Entire lifetimes of healing can occur overnight now. The subconscious veil is thinner than ever, allowing deeper truth to emerge, not from the mind, but from the spirit. Synchronicities also begin to multiply. Repeating numbers, especially 444, 777, or mirrored times, seem to chase you. A phrase you read reappears in someone else's voice. You think of someone, and they call. These are not coincidences. These are calibrations. The universe is speaking in patterns now, delivering validation, confirmation, and sometimes redirection. The more you honor these moments with attention, the more clearly they begin to map out your next steps. And perhaps most powerfully of all, your spiritual discernment sharpens. What once felt random now feels encoded. You may walk into a space and feel the truth of it immediately. A person's energy may tell you more than their words ever could. Your intuition speaks with fewer doubts. It's not louder, but it's clearer. The noise of external influence begins to fade, and you start trusting the frequency within. This is how spirit confirms its presence, not always with lightning or visions, but with patterns, precision, and a deepening sense that nothing is truly accidental anymore. The veil is thin. The codes are alive. And if you're paying attention, the divine evidence is already showing you that the shift you feel is real, and it's just beginning. You've now walked through a week unlike any other. From the soul remembrance of April 9th to the sacred clarity of Mercury's alignment with Saturn, to the emotional realignment of Venus turning direct, and now under the piercing light of the Libra full moon, you've been spiritually stirred, emotionally tested, and energetically repositioned. But knowing these things isn't enough. You are being called to respond. And the way you move through this window will shape how the rest of this month, and this year, unfolds for you. Start with stillness. Before you do, decide, or even dream, cleanse and quiet. This is not metaphorical. It's energetic. Spiritual noise clutters clarity. Whether through breathwork, silent walks, prayer, meditation, writing, or even fasting if your body calls for it, create sacred space. Let the nervous system settle. Let your heart recalibrate. You cannot carry divine instructions if your channel is filled with static. Trust that the silence is not empty. It's where alignment begins. Then comes intention. Around April 12th and 13th, as Venus goes direct and the full moon reaches its peak, your energy field becomes magnetic. That's why this is the moment to write your intentions, not what you think you should want, but what your soul is truly calling in. Go beyond surface-level goals. What do you really long for? What would it feel like to live in full alignment with your truth, your worth, your vision? Name that. Claim that. Use the light of this full moon to anchor it into the physical world. But anchoring doesn't happen without release. You must make room. So allow yourself to forgive and release. This is not about condoning injustice or invalidating your pain. It's about removing what no longer belongs in your spirit. Bitterness. Unspoken grief. Self-blame. It's time to burn the letters, speak the truth aloud, write the name you've never said and release it into the sky. Grief is not weakness. It's the soul's natural way of healing. Let it move. As this week intensifies your emotions, your logic may fall behind. That's why you must trust your intuition more than ever. Feelings will rise without warning. You'll notice yourself reacting differently. Pausing instead of responding. Saying no instead of defaulting to yes. These are not mood swings, they are energetic adjustments. When your frequency shifts, your instincts evolve. Trust them. Even if it doesn't make sense to others. Even if you can't explain it yet. This is also the time to take sacred responsibility. As Mercury aligns with Saturn, your mind is not just clearing, it's becoming capable of building something real. Don't run from that responsibility. Structure your new reality. Ground your insights into commitments. Make the phone call. Set the date. Rewrite the contract. Clear the clutter. Spiritual awakening is not separate from the material, it's the soul bringing order to your external world. This is how you integrate heaven into earth. And as all of this unfolds, you may find yourself needing more space. Solitude. Quiet detachment. If so, honor it. This is not social disconnection, it's spiritual sovereignty. Solitude is the space where your original frequency has room to breathe. When the old world no longer fits, your spirit will crave distance from everything that used to define you. That is not regression. It is rebirth. You're not withdrawing from life, you're stepping into alignment. You are standing now at a threshold, and this threshold is invisible to the eyes, but undeniable to the soul. Something in you knows it's real. Something in you feels it has arrived. And yes, it is here. A spiritual doorway has opened. And like all divine doors, it does not stay open forever. See, I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut. Revelation 3 verse 8. This is not just scripture. It is instruction. The door is not guarded. It is not locked. But it does require choice. It requires the courage to leave behind what is familiar in order to cross into what is true. And no one can make that crossing for you. If you felt disconnected from systems, from roles, from relationships that once defined you, take that as confirmation. You are not falling apart. You are falling free. This week wasn't meant to entertain your mind. It was meant to awaken your spirit. And the signs have already arrived: time distortion, dream symbols, emotional clarity, spiritual synchronicity. Everything has been guiding you to this moment. The invitation is simple, but sacred: release what is false. Remember what is eternal. Don't rush through this gateway. Walk through it with reverence. With intention. With readiness to become the version of you that your soul has always known was possible. You are not being left behind. You are being called forward. And what's waiting for you on the other side of this alignment is not another version of your old life, it's a new timeline altogether. If this resonates with you, comment 777 to mark your alignment and confirmation. Let the world know that your soul heard the call. And if someone you love is walking through their own threshold, share this with them. Because though our awakenings may look different, the doorway is open for all who are willing to walk through it.